silence is golden is something that we have read and heard many times. However, this could be a very conditional truth. And let's talk about this in two parts. So, watch both parts of this video that I'm making for you. In the first part today, I will talk about some silence that's as bad as violence. And in the second part of this, I will address when silence is actually priceless. Now, imagine for a moment that employee who possibly is not being heard, whose expertise is not being recommended, or whose expertise is not being recognized, or whose expertise is not being paid attention to despite the employee speaking up. What does the employee do? Go quiet. And over a period of time, distances himself or herself from the team, from the organization, and boom, one day a very valuable resource leaves the organization. Same way with our families, with our friend circles, that one individual who's not appreciated, maybe by parents, maybe by a spouse, maybe by by children, or maybe by relatives, or that one friend who's extremely talented, or who gives good advice, or who always supports, but we really don't listen to them. What happens then? That family member or that friend distances themselves, seeks solace in someone else, and over a period of time breaks away from the family system or from the friend circle. Silence in these cases, on the part of that employee that I spoke about, on the part of whoever was watching that employee not being treated well, or silence on the part of that family member or the friend who did not speak up, or on the part of the people who could see something wrong happening but not addressing that. All of that ended up violently breaking up the relationship at some point in time. The story may not be so smooth because that employee or that family member or that friend could have had a lot of boil ups and eruptions and episodes where that frustration got vented out. Because remember, that silence, which is getting pent up inside, often creates a resentment which grows louder, heavier, more pinpointed, full of blame, and at some point in time, it will erupt. The eruption can also be from other people who are experiencing silence from this individual, suddenly trying to engage that person in snaps and jerks, but this person is not responding. So the frustration could also build up from the other side. And that game of silence, which is being played, not addressing the core issue, is becoming a very, very inappropriate juncture in the relationship. Also, what's happening is because words are not being exchanged, there are unsaid expectations which are getting pent up in the background. I should be understood, or the other person should understand. I want this. This is how I need to be treated. But while those are internal dialogues, they are not getting expressed because of that silence. And this silence then is creating a bigger problem in multiple other areas where contributions were required, where support was required, where action was required, where work was required. That employee who's an SME and nobody's paying attention to stops speaking, and the project could fail at a very critical juncture, which only this particular employee could have saved. Or the family goes through a certain crisis, which only this individual from the family could have held everybody together, or that friend was really important for many things that you were doing and you were not able to because suddenly the friend was absent. Those are collateral damages which will happen because of that silence. So think about this. And many times what happens is, if somebody is silent, we can also confuse that person to just say, oh, the person is just so accepting, it doesn't want to create violence, and hence the person is quiet. And that confusion can be very, very challenging for other people, because you are not saying what is in your mind, or the individual is not saying what is in their mind, and it is getting construed as calm. Whereas beneath that calm, like I said, there is a storm that is brewing, and there is a cost to those unspoken words. So, what we have to understand is that many of us resort to silence thinking that it will bring peace, thinking that it will bring, it'll avoid conflicts, thinking that maybe the solution will come on its own at some point in time. That thought can be very dangerous because everything doesn't resolve on its own. I'm not saying that things may not resolve. There may be a natural flow, and I'll talk in the next video about when that silence has to be judged, when things are not so challenging, when people are understanding. Yes, you could go silent, things could get revealed, but in most cases, when everyone is busy, when everyone has an agenda, when everyone is driving towards something, when everyone is bothered by the various stresses of modern life, that silence can be a very big breach of the entire fabric of whatever is holding together. The fabric of the team, the fabric of the family, the fabric of the friendship. And when that silence goes so numbing, and when eruptions happen, trust breaks down, action breaks down, relationships break down, results break down, sometimes really literally creating chaos. I hope I have made this case solidly enough for you to remember this, that some silence is as bad and maybe even worse than violence, because violence can be inflicted once, violence can be addressed if it happens. But silence, when you don't know what is in the other person's mind, when somebody is refusing to talk, when somebody is refusing to influence, when somebody is refusing to be influenced, what do you do then? And it's a complete loss, because when somebody goes silent, others lose influence on this person, and this person loses influence on the other person. So, what do you do? There are three things that one should focus on in any, and we all have difficult situations. We all go through challenges in life, whether in our family, in our friend circle, with our children, with our parents, with our bosses, with team members, with colleagues. We will go through challenge. That's the nature of life. That's the nature of modern life, especially when everyone is so distracted and so under pressure. What do? The first thing is, we need to be in a solution oriented mind at all points in time. We cannot expect that life will be in an automatic mode. We can't expect that everything will come through and resolve on its own. In today's life, many times, even a moment's lapse of attention can be weeks of setback. That's the level of attentiveness that we need to have, of how solution oriented we are. We need to stay in the moment. So, if the child is disturbed, or if the parent is not focused, or if the boss is not aligned, or if the team member is seemingly disconnected, or any of those situations where somebody is silent, or if you are feeling disconnected and if you are the one who's exercising the silence, then you need to understand that your silence is not helping others. You need to find a solution oriented way to do this. And the second thing that you need to do is also the emotions that you're experiencing. You have to find a safe way to express it. And the safe way to express emotions is not through showing that emotion, but telling the other person the story of the emotion. Like, instead of raising your voice in anger, you can help the other person understand that I am experiencing a lot of anger or agitation or irritation right now because of this situation. Instead of feeling very sad, you can help the other person that this situation is really zapping my energy at this point in time, and I'm finding it difficult to focus. If instead of being very anxious and showing your anxiety through a palpitated state, through flushing of the face and skin, you can focus and center and tell the other person that, look, my heart's beginning to beat really fast on this, or I'm not able to focus because my thoughts are getting distracted because I am feeling anxious. Convert your emotion into words and not action, and put it out there. Also, you need to ensure that you make small, sustained, consistent efforts to get things to the right moment where you can completely diffuse the situation. Remember, there's a lot of preparation. In relationships, you do a lot of things to prepare for a moment. In the family, at work, etc. You play the right step cards, you take the right steps, you say the right things, you get everything to a point when everyone is focused on what needs to be done and resolve the situation. So before you try to dissolve a situation, resolve things around it so that you can get everybody focused around it. That's the way to move forward. So whether you are experiencing silence from somebody else or you are the one who's resorting to silence, ensure that, number one, get solution focused. Don't have those lapses of attention. Express your emotion and share your thoughts and work towards getting everything to a right moment where then finally you can break ice with whatever it is that's bothering both sides and get to an agreement and resolve. Will everything resolve? No, not really. There will be those moments when the other party will not agree. Then always you have that option of separation. You cannot be in a state of agreeing to disagree. No, that's not going to happen because neither you nor the other party is going to progress. So remember this, get to the solution and solve it. If the situation becomes untenable, then you need to take the situation by its neck, its curve, its hands, whichever way you want to call it, and then break the situation down into something that's tenable. Sometimes separation is the option then in that case, but I'm going to encourage you to use that option only in 0.001% of the cases. In all of the cases, 99.99% cases, focus on solving things. That's what you need to do. As I close this conversation, remember this, there's a lot of noise in today's world. Many times we are choosing silence because we don't want to add to all the cacophony around us, all the clutter, all the noise around us. We want to be the one who is a little gentle and saintly and avoid that. Remember, creative confrontation or focused confrontation or solution oriented confrontation in a relationship is not noise, provided it's done respectfully, provided it's done gently, provided it's done logically. So what we really need to ask ourselves is, am I going to deal with this situation, whether I'm seeing someone silent, or if I am the one who's being silent at this point in time, am I going to be gentle? Am I going to be rational? Am I going to be respectful? Am I going to be decent in the way that I will deal with this situation? If you do that, then what you do is not going to be noise. What you do then is going to be dialogue. And I will talk to you on another occasion about how to really get into a dialogue, because a dialogue has its own pain. But remember, silence is not the way to deal with many important things within our life if you have not attempted to creatively solve it. Also remember this, that peace is not the absence of conflict. Many times we look at logical opposite in life. Peace and conflict, that's how we hold it. No, the logical opposite doesn't work in life. You have to figure out a phenomenological opposite. The opposite of peace can actually be silence. The opposite of peace can actually be hiding the truth. The opposite of peace can actually be withdrawing from a relationship. Does that make sense? Hold that thought for yourself. So if you are really wanting peace, you may need to work through your distancing, your silence, etc. Speak up in a relationship, find the right audience, come to a point of conclusion where the other person says, yes, I understand and we'll make the changes, or I really am not going to listen to you. And then you take the call to break the relationship if you really need to. Before that, don't resort to silence and the violence that's hidden in silence. Remember, relationships are about understanding. They are not always about agreeing. You may not agree always, but you have to understand the other person's point of view. And relationships are also about understanding and then getting to a trade off. And that trade off is what makes it a real champion in doing what we do with our life, with our relationships. Enjoy and make the most of your relationships, but definitely not in silence. Silence is priceless sometimes, and we will speak about it. But in most cases, if you are using silence as a tool to fight the situation, don't do it. It can be worse than violence.